Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock on September 13th, 2023. This is Planning Board. First, a big welcome to our new town planner, Pam Harding.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Pam, we're very excited to have you start. Hopefully the first 2 weeks has not just been drinking from the fire hose, but
a little bit, but that's okay.
That's how it goes sometimes. Pam, why don't you go ahead and take a roll call attendance?
Sure. Michael Gore.
Here.
Bob Romer.
Here.
Austin Groner.
Here.
Michael Lau.
Here.
And Eric Nyland and James Barr are absent.
Okay. Yeah, we're hoping Eric shows up a little bit later, but we'll see. First order of business tonight is a public hearing for 580 Main Street, map 4C, parcel 24, to amend an existing special permit. So do we have representatives from 580 here tonight?
Yes, you do. How are you?
How's it going?
Good. I'm Jeff O'Neill, one of the principals and owners of the property of 580 Main. We've owned the asset since, I believe, 2007-8 timeframe. So online with me is also Brandon Carr. He's from DePret Engineering, and also Matt Snell from Nutter. So thanks for having us tonight.
Yeah.
So as the board is aware, the larger property was subdivided in March of 2022, really to make way for the comprehensive permit project, which is the 229 unit residential development going behind us. So as part of that approval, where the property line was subdivided, and in order to accommodate the comprehensive permit project, we had to partially demo our existing building. So that's why we're here tonight. So we're here to discuss the reduction of the remaining office building, as it will reduce from 140,000 square feet down to about 60,000 square feet. So we're before the board tonight requesting an amendment and restatement of the existing 1986 special permit, and to revise some of the conditions in the 1986 special permit, which are no longer relevant to the property in light of the reduced office project in the future development of the comprehensive permit project. So originally, the 1986 special permit was issued by the Board of Selectmen pursuant to the zoning bylaw at that time. And then following discussions recently that we had over the last, 4 or 5 months with the previous town planner, the town administrator, and also town council, it was determined that the current zoning bylaw provides that the planning board is the special permit granting authority. So really, that's why we're here tonight. To bring you up to date where we are with the town on the project, and this is just related to the office portion only. So we have met with the select board, and they have waived the site plan approval to your direction. The zoning board has approved a special permit allowing the reduction of the required parking spaces to 129 with conditions. And we've also been in front of the Conservation Commission, which we are only waiting on the DEP file number to be issued at the state, as they have a backup of projects. So we've been through several boards already.
Mm-hmm.
So pursuant to the zoning bylaw, the planning board shall grant a special permit only upon the determination that the activity may be carried out without substantial detriment to the public good. So as we further show you in the plans, we feel we meet these as the use does not change. We meet all the dimensional requirements. The project reduces the existing impacts of the office use, including traffic. We're upgrading stormwater systems and stormwater management. It facilitates the comprehensive permit at the rear of the site, and we're protecting natural resources with conservation setbacks, and we're providing EV access to several vehicles at the parking lot. So with that, I'd like to show you the plans. I'll let Brandon Carr from DePret. He'll show you an overview of the development and what we're trying to do and accomplish between the two sites as it relates to the remaining office building.
That'd be great.
Good evening, Brandon Carr with DePret. So I'm going to run through a couple slides here, showing you what we're proposing. Jeff kind of gave an overview of the entire project, but I think you're familiar. The entire property is the blue and the red, well, the former entire property. The blue highlighted section here is a section that is going through permitting for the comprehensive permit for the multifamily development. The red portion up front is the section we're talking about tonight where the existing office building is. Those two lots have been subdivided recently, so they exist as two separate lots today. The next slide should be a little zoomed in. Oh, go ahead. So this is another view. It's just showing kind of how the office building site fits in the context of the overall development. So you can see the multifamily comprehensive permit in the southern section of the site, in the western portion of the frontage here, and then the shaded region is the existing is the lot that we're talking about tonight. So this is further zooming in, kind of give you existing conditions context on the existing office building. So the existing office building, the 140,000 square foot, is in yellow here. There's existing parking and kind of a drop-off loop in front of the building here. And then the existing parking is down kind of out of view to the south here, where the comprehensive permit project is going. It's tough to see on this screen, but that new lot line goes, if you can see my mouse, kind of goes right through the southern kind of pod of the building here. And then on the eastern side, so the right side of this plan, there's a brook with associated wetlands, floodplain. So there are some buffers that we're working in. We're not expanding any impervious, or we're not disturbing any currently undisturbed areas within those buffers, but that's why we're before the Conservation Commission as well, because we are working within mainly the 200-foot riverbank. And the only work disturbance within that 200-foot riverbank is to install a propane line from the new tank location. But like I said, there's no expansion or disturbance within the wetland resource areas or anything like that. So this is just kind of a slimmed down version. Again, this rotated the view a little bit. So Main Street's on your left. So north is actually at the left of this plan. But this shows what we're proposing to do. The blue line you see is that lot line. The green on the right side here, this is the portion of the office building that will be demolished and removed. It's being removed, and that lot line was established so that it meets the side yard requirement. The center portion, kind of the vestibule area of the building, and then the left pod, the northern pod of that office building is to remain. Where there was existing parking, we're expanding it, and the drop-off area is being expanded here to provide 129 spaces. So the way the zoning bylaw reads is that there's one space required for every 250 gross square feet. So based on the gross square feet of the building, which is at 60,000 square feet, the requirement would be 240 spaces. However, there's a lot of room in the building that's common areas. That's not really leasable area. It's mechanical rooms, common areas, that vestibule. The actual kind of office use and lease square footage is closer to 40,000 square feet, which would require 161 spaces. So the requirement per zoning definition is 240, but it's really, by usable space 160. What we're proposing and what we're asking for relief is to 129 spaces, and that's what we were before the zoning board last week, and we received approval from the zoning board to reduce that parking to 129 spaces. That's just based on properties Condyne owns and manages, the existing tenant mix here, that the parking use at this site, even when fully occupied at the 140,000 square feet, very rarely saw more than 150 parking spaces utilized, and that was pre-COVID when everyone was in the office. There's a lot of remote work going on, so 129 spaces we feel is very comfortable for this building.
How many employees are in that building today?
Jeff?
There's only probably about 50 to 55 in the whole building.
in the whole complex. Is that is that like one company or is it kind of multiple companies?
We have one, two, three, four tenants in the building right now.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And one additional question, what's the capacity of the remaining building in terms of number of employees?
The capacity, well, the building is, as it's situated now, is primarily office. So what's there, as it sits with the remaining capacity, there is some vacancy that's there, but with today's market and what people are requiring in office space, it's not like it's a call center. The days of the call center are long gone. So we don't see that anymore here in the Massachusetts market for the most part. So there is some available capacity. It's probably about, in the total building, it's probably 50%, but once you consolidate down, then it boots up to probably about 75% is occupied.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, that was a long way to answer your question.
Nope, appreciate it. And on that last slide, so where the new parking is now, what is there today?
So it's parking
that.
and landscape area.
Okay.
Just coverage wise with the building reduction, we're actually a net decrease of a few thousand square feet of impervious on the site.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get to the next, so as part of that reconfiguration of the parking area, we're reusing most of the existing drainage. But what we're doing is really the current treatment today is really no treatment. There's catch basins that pipe the water. There's a detention pond here that then outlets towards the wetlands that I mentioned that are now at the top of the screen. What we're doing is reconfiguring that network, regrading the parking lot when we reconfigure it, and we're adding a water quality structure, basically a vortechnics unit that we've sized to treat all the pavement and the building. So we're going from a condition where the stormwater is just collected and discharged into this existing stormwater pond. Now we're adding a structure prior to that pond to remove TSS, to remove floatables, and its size, water quality for the water quality storm for all the impervious on site. So we're going from a site basically with no water quality treatment, just peak attenuation, to a site with the existing stormwater pond remaining, and we're adding water quality treatment for the entire site. The other work around the site, the parking is the main site work on the site. The other are related to obviously the building demolition. There is an access drive and loading dock on the back portion of the building here that will be connecting. If I go back to the overall site plan and the comprehensive permit, you can see that there's an access point through their parking lot here. There'll be easements, so any deliveries will go down the main road through this parking and then get to the back of the building there. So that loading dock, access to that loading dock is being maintained. Other than that, I mentioned there's an existing propane tank that sits here, which would be now off the office building's property that's being moved to the other side. That's the work that's really being coordinated with Concom, because the existing and proposed location of that tank is within the 200-foot riverbank. So we were before them a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and we're before them next Tuesday night again.
And Brandon, can you just go up to the existing condition slide?
Mm-hmm.
So what you see there is what's in place now, but if you see all those circles and the roundabouts and everything else, it's really old and antiquated. A lot of the curbs all need to be replaced. The landscaping's overgrown. So really what we're doing is an immense improvement to the office building and hopefully the area as well. So by cleaning everything up and consolidating, and obviously new concrete walkways, everything else will be constructed to access the building.
Where's that loading dock again? That's right. So is there a road?
Yeah. So
existing and
back here, I'll draw on the screen.
As part of that, there's a reciprocal easement agreement that's between us and the developer out back in the comprehensive permit. Mm-hmm. That is being structured between the two of us to operate there. But that's the access roadway. Right now, that's not there because you have to go through the parking lot all the way below and then go up. So that would be part of the development. and this has to be done in phases. So the first phase is to construct the parking lot out front. In order to do that, we need to have access to the rear parking lot to allow our tenants to park. Then we construct the parking lot, and then we demo the building. So there's a couple of phases that has to happen before the comprehensive permit project proceeds as well.
On the other project, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because that large parking lot that Jeff
Is-
meant, is down well south of that existing building. So there's kind of some swapping around of parking that needs to be done to open up that site for development.
Yeah.
And the two large circles you see there are the no-touch areas that all that paving and parking is going to be removed in those areas as well.
And that's existing, those circles?
So those are proposed wells for the multifamily, for the whole development.
Okay,
right.
So any impervious within the radius of those wells
Gotcha.
needs to be removed.
Right. It's one of the new DEP standards that came into place in recent years.
Yeah, so you can't really see it there, but they're that underlying light gray parking spaces
Mhm.
there where the handprint is. That's existing parking that serves the larger office building. And so when they develop the comprehensive permit parking, that square goes, and then they build this new little bit of parking in the building there.
Right. And by way of the 1986 special permit that Flatley did way back when. So the site was originally designed for those two office pods plus two more pods. So that's why that parking is removed all the way further back, because he had an additional two that were proposed. Correct.
There's an insane amount of parking back there.
Well, it's been used for the Bolton Fair for years, so.
Yeah, not for a long time though.
Right.
That did crack me up when I saw that was a special permit requirement with parking for the Bolton.
Yeah,
Fair.
there was a lot in there, and I didn't realize they were trying to land planes in there either, so.
Yeah, very, very Bolton.
So basically, that's, in a nutshell, that's a project, and from here, you can take a look at the side elevation as it looks from in the front, from where the multifamily development will be as well.
Yeah, and so
So-
this would be a view kind of the new front of the building.
Mhm.
I actually have one more quick question about the deliveries. What kind of deliveries are you expecting at the office? Are we talking large trucks or vans or what?
Mostly they're shorter trucks that would be, if any, the shorter trucks are usually a short box truck, and cab would be usually the largest. And then most often it's FedEx and UPS.
I mean, like a
Okay.
WB Mason truck, stuff like that for the most
Right.
part.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
90% of the trucks will be those.
Can we talk a little bit about the demolition, just sort of how you're doing that? Is the entire office, other side of the office shutting down while you do that work? What are the sort of mitigations
think-
you're gonna do?
sure.
Like, what's the timing of it? Like, again, because there's sort of two projects going on, the apartment complex and this one,
Yeah.
like, can you sort of describe the timeline for when you see the demo happening?
Yeah, so it's coming together. It's pretty complicated. So if we start, first of all, the number one priority we have is the parking lot. So that's phase one. So that will go first. So we have to construct and move the existing tenants, and while we construct the parking lot out front. Second behind that will be a relocation of the existing water line to the remaining office building. So the water line traverses down this sidewalk. If Brandon shows you that sidewalk there on the lower left. Yep, down that sidewalk into that second part of the building. Now we have to remove it. It's going around and then in the rear of the building. So now we're free, ready to go to start the demolition of the building. And
Sorry,
we will.
excuse me. Is that where is that water, that well now? Are you sharing that with the apartment complex? Like where you
No.
showed me on the previous one?
No,
or-
that they're gonna construct two new wells.
Okay.
So our well for the existing office building is just coming off site here to the left of the drawing that you're looking at. And there's a small pump station that's in there as well.
Okay.
So so we don't want to relocate that twice. And then we need consistent access to water to the building, not only for domestic, but for fire protection as well.
Mhm.
So when that happens, Then we start the demo of the building, and we're not going to do the demo of the building until the rear property closes on the acquisition of the land. So then we'll demo the building, and we have shoring, and actually a new foundation system has to be constructed. So there will be a new exterior wall outside of the existing footing, and then will be constructed from there up. And that will be done while tenants are in the building, but all shoring and precautions will be taking place. And as the tenants are only in that north pod, not in the south pod. The south pod that you're looking at where it's going to be demoed is 100% vacant today.
And the entire building was constructed in '86, so there's no asbestos.
Correct.
Material like
Correct.
that. Okay.
As part of the demo, we have to go through that anyways. So that's part of the process. As you apply for a demo permit, you have to do an asbestos test on all materials.
Can I ask a couple of questions? You mentioned that the well that's going to be used for the reduced facility comes from the original well, the public well. What is the radius and where does it lie on that existing public water supply?
It's just off screen here. I believe that's the radius to the well. So if I go back to the, should be shown. I don't know if it's shown on this plan, but it's back in this portion of the site here.
It shows, Brandon, it's the two circles there on the left. So the circle that's closer is where the existing well is in the center. And then the pump station is partially up on that building 9 in that area.
Yep.
If you just go a little bit north of that, to the left of your green is the pump station. Keep going north. No, to the right now. Yep. Right around there.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Correct. So the well goes to the pump station there, goes to the filtration process, and then goes to the rear of the office pod at an angle, that lower office pod.
So the radius of protection is still within your lot?
Correct. The radius protection for that existing well is this circle here.
Okay.
Correct.
The second question, getting back to Austin's question about the number of employees, assuming that you had full occupancy, and you probably would really like that to happen, and with your common spaces, what do you expect with, a typical occupancy rate per employee of, say, 150 square feet per employee? What does that come up to, and how does that fit with your parking?
I don't have that exact calculation, but in the building now, we have roughly about 40,000 square feet of leasable area. So taking out the lobby, taking out the restrooms, taking out the stairwells, taking out the mechanical rooms, and all those facets that are through that building, there's about 40 that remains. Part of the lower building is primarily, it's kind of basement space. So there's a lot of miscellaneous uses that are in there, including a gym. That's an employee amenity that's there. So with that, I don't see us ever having the need to exceed the 129 spaces. And as we discussed with the zoning board, we will do what we can within the leases to make sure that any sort of traffic demand and things like that are adhered to, and do our work to try to assure for those tenants.
But out of curiosity, if in fact there's 40,000 square feet and you're looking at that as usable rentable space outside of common and mechanical at 150 square feet per individual office space per employee, that comes out to 266 employees.
And so the zoning requirement for this district is one space for 250 square feet.
Okay.
So that was the calculation that Brandon went through, that it's someplace, depending on leasable versus gross floor, it's someplace between 160 and 240. And so based on Jeff's experience of the property, the tenant he has, the tenants he's anticipating, when the building's at full max, they weren't exceeding 150 spaces. So they're pretty confident with this number. And I'm trying to remember the exact language. the zoning board, kind of asked these same questions, and what we ultimately settled on, they had two concerns, right? First, that it's not overparked and no one can park. And then two, that they aren't taking up spaces at the residential property next door, or they're not parking out in the streets. So we agreed to two conditions that'll be in that decision. One is to manage the parking, put up signage so there's no on-street parking coming in, no parking in the driveways, those kind of general things. And then I think the other condition is really related to what Jeff was saying, how we manage the tenants, making sure the tenants understand what they're getting when they sign a lease and what the requirements are, and they can't park other places, and they have to, stress work from home, those kind of things as well, so that they're not coming in. We're not getting that call center use. Hey, this is a great place to rent, and then they find out they don't have any parking. As I said to Pam at that meeting, I said it much better when I said it out loud. So Pam might be able to get on how those conditions are going to shape up as well.
That's a concern, certainly, of the people in Bolton Manor. They're very concerned that, well, two things. First of all, they're very concerned about the implications of construction and travel down that what amounts to a common drive between them and your facilities, and also the potential for parking to end up in their parking lot, which they're certainly not real interested in. But I just wanted to make sure that you have appropriately considered that and are looking at making sure that any of your tenants understand the implications of the limitation of available parking and have to live by that.
That is correct.
Yeah, and that was exactly, we spent some time with the zoning board on that same issue. So,
okay, thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, any other?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So, do you envision that you'll ever be able to fill up that office like to 100% max as office space?
I wish I would like to be optimistic of that, but since we've owned the asset, it never has been. So let's put it this way: we wouldn't be doing the transaction out back and tearing down part of the office building if we didn't think we were ever going to lease it.
So I understand. My point in saying that is there an opportunity here to, create some pods for retail or anything on the first floor? I didn't watch all the ZBA, so I don't know if you investigated opportunities besides just office space. I mean, office space doesn't seem very sought after.
No.
I know, near where I work, some of the office space, like I work off of 129 in Chelmsford, and this Press Cafe moved in, and it's doing really well. Like, have you thought about anything along those lines? And I think you're kind of in the mixed use village overlay, so potentially you could do that.
So we would love to see some sort of retail use here, and it would be great. We'd love to have it, whatever it could be, but we just haven't had that demand that's been coming here for that. And is there a way we can accommodate it? We don't know as of yet. In addition, when the mixed use village was proposed, we had a master plan over this entire area. The first go around, it was initially turned down by the town. And we missed all sorts of retail opportunities when the retail was growing. Then the town approved the mix overlay, and it was subsequently 2 or 3 years later. And we missed the window, and they went 2 exits south and went to Hudson.
Yeah, same thing happened on the other side of the highway, essentially.
Right. So our timing wasn't great. We'd love to see, it'd be great if we could get something small in here, and the access is great because you're in and out off of 580 Main.
Well, and you're about to have a couple hundred, neighbors right next to you who might be looking for amenities or something.
Like a sandwich shop or something like that.
Yeah, we are setting up some small little office units, office suites, so that's going to be available. Would love to have the rental units next door if they want a suite. So those will be in the next process, taking up some of the vacancy.
And this question may be way out of bounds for this discussion, but again, I didn't see all the ZBA meetings, and maybe Bob Romer can add to this, like talking
Well,
about walking.
Eric, real quick. So ZBA was just to reduce the number of required parking spots. That's all. That's all.
No, I
that-
was just talking about the whole office spaces.
Oh, you mean the apartment complex?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not really what I'm discussing here, but
Just a quick question. I'm sorry, Mike.
okay, go ahead.
Was there any discussion about a collaboration with the town for water and sewer? Or, I mean, like, you don't have to get into a long discussion, but if you could just, like, I know along, there's the treatment plant there. And,
Nothing related to the town, but the systems here would be joint between the office building and the residential development.
mhm.
So part of what they're doing is also going to connect our systems as well.
Okay.
Jeff, to follow on with Eric's comment, one of the things that has come back with a number of our surveys with respect to leasing commercial space in Bolton is the lack of nearby amenities. And I think that's something very well worth exploring, that it might be very much to your advantage in the attractiveness of office facilities if in fact you had some of the amenities that have been noted lacking by people looking for office space.
I would agree. I think the primary need that we need in this area is more food related. Building itself, I mean, there's plenty of, walking things like that. We also have a gymnasium in there, a fitness center. We have restrooms with showers and everything else, and all the restrooms are being redone as well. So, but I would agree that food is probably the primary.
Well, that's true. That comes out of not just commercial surveys, but Bolton resident surveys as well. That food is very important, particularly local food in Bolton.
Understood.
I don't have any other comments. Just it looks, it's a great project. We're excited to get it going.
Yeah,
So
you guys have more slides you want to go through there?
No, that was the presentation. The last slide was just the architectural drawings of the facades, but really I think the front kind of shows better the colors and textures and things that we're looking at on the building, revitalize it. That's basically it. It's the parking, and then the stormwater improvements are really what we're looking at from the site standpoint, and then everything else is the building renovation.
Is that design about approximately what it's going to look like?
I think, Brandon, if you go to the elevations again.
Yep.
Sorry. So the top slide that you're looking at is the existing from the left over. So that will not change all the way on the left that you see, and that's the main entrance that's coming in. Okay. To the right of the top is the new glass that we're going to construct. And then on that rendering that we're showing you is the second slide. So that faces the residential development on the backside of the property. And then it connects to the existing building that you can see where it has the 3-story of the granite on the exterior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that'll look really nice.
Something modern, dress it up a little bit in the rear.
Yep.
A little less industrial.
So I think the only real concern I had is just kind of on the stormwater management stuff. And again, I think that's just something we'd like to have our peer reviewer take a look at to make sure that it's meeting all of the requirements and guidelines we need to meet now. Now more than ever with all the rain that we're getting.
Yeah. Does the conservation review that? I mean, we filed everything with Concom, right, Brandon?
Correct. Yeah, we're before Concom for a notice of intent as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if they would review that, or I mean, we typically review. If you're talking about water mitigation and drains and that sort of stuff, we certainly do review that stuff.
Because this is all going to end up, it discharges to that retention pond that's existing and then out. We're going to have to meet all the DEP stormwater standards, right? You provide the stormwater report we prepare is what's in front of the Conservation Commission. Brandon, you can probably speak that a little bit more, but in order to do the work we need to do because of the riverfront area that extends onto the property and those discharges and things, the Concom's going to take a pretty good look at that, I think. And so far, they haven't had any issues, other than we can't get DEP to issue a number.
Yeah, development. And then, as you recall, the comprehensive permit project has their own order of conditions that's in place as well. So it's been well studied by the conservation.
Does the Concom also use a peer reviewer to review any plans?
They have not mentioned that. What we submitted was basically an analysis based on this being a redevelopment project, showing that we're reducing the overall amount of impervious and we're also providing water quality where it's not today. That was also submitted to the planning board. So, but Concom has not mentioned, I think they just did their own in-house review.
Okay.
Just getting back to, again, our suggestion that you think about amenities, specifically a small restaurant, whether you might want to take into consideration in your sewage treatment, potentially putting a small restaurant there, which would add, I don't know how significant, but a small amount of additional and different sewage and potential treatment. But it might be worth thinking about that up front rather than having to face it later with a normal commercial facility.
That would be correct. So our usage per day is pretty nominal. That's there. So obviously we'd have to match up with the development that's behind. So they've gone through their calculations. And then based on what we see and what's there, we could see how much would be allowed and permissible based on that. And then at that point in time, we'd also have to have grease traps and things like that. That's the biggest issue. Yeah.
That's a very big concern when it comes to sewage treatment.
Right.
That's all I have.
Pam, do you have any comments on just the project in
No.
general?
As far as the stormwater review goes with the Conservation Commission, I'm not really sure. I'd have to check with the town administrator. I know they just had one hearing so far, and both the agent and the new Concom administrator are both out right now. So the town administrator's been acting as the agent, so I can check with him and see what kind of review of the stormwater calcs were done. But to my knowledge, I don't think they were reviewed. Maybe a commission member has some relevant experience where they conducted it on a voluntary basis, but there have been no reports as far as I'm aware. And if you could provide us with the operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater system, that would be beneficial. We didn't have one in the stormwater report that was provided with the special permit. I just had a few minor comments related to the parking area. I believe that the details for the parking lighting have a mounted height of 23 feet. And we restrict the height to 20 feet installed, so we just need to address that, that it exceeds the maximum height requirement. And then you spoke a few times about EV parking spaces, but I couldn't find any notations on the plan.
Pam, we haven't located them yet, but I think the ideal situation is probably right where the green is on the lower corner, right there in those areas, because that's going to be closest to our electrical room that's down the rear of the building. And it would be easy for us to run the line up there and put the underground in and ready for those spaces.
Are you making them EV ready, or are you installing actual stations?
We will install probably 1 or 2 units that have 2 plugs each.
Okay.
And then we'll make ready available whatever else would be required.
Okay.
Yeah, typically for a site like this, we would install anywhere from 2 to 4 initially. Then what we would do is like these center islands here, this side, we would make sure there's conduit and everything installed when the parking lot's constructed, so those could be easily added in the future. We wouldn't have to go in and trench through the pavement and everything. That's what we're seeing that on majority of any real commercial or residential product, making like about 40 to 50% of the spaces EV ready or adaptable.
Okay,
That's mainly installing conduit and other infrastructure. Making sure we're planning for, transformer areas and things if it's a tighter site. This site has plenty of room for things like that, but the layout of this parking with a lot of head-on parking to landscaping does facilitate easy addition of chargers in the future.
Can I add one thing as well, is when the comprehensive permit project was approved, it also went through an immense amount of peer review. Now, that peer review included, I believe, some of the drainage that was related to our parking lot, where they are drainage and taking advantage of that system that we have in place to drain up to that detention basin up in the top left part of the site. So it's not as if this was not looked at. It's been looked at extensively with the comprehensive permit project for over a year and a half.
will they be doing any maintenance or was any maintenance duties identified as part of that review process? Do you know?
I'll have to look at their O&M, but we have our O&M that is on site, that's ongoing as well.
Okay,
And I'll send you that agreement.
that'd be great. Thank you. And I thought also this use would be beneficial if it had some bike racks or storage on the property, especially with the potential increase in the residential units that are being constructed with the 40B. And it would blend well with the uses if you start considering more retail oriented or food oriented establishments.
Okay.
This is all just suggestions through the chair. I'm not sure if the board is in agreement, but we can certainly discuss these comments.
Nope, definitely.
And then there's a number of car parking spaces up against the proposed concrete sidewalk. Usually we request car stops along those to prevent any intrusion into the sidewalk and traveled paths. And then if you could talk a little about the access to the front of the building from the ADA spaces, there weren't any ramps identified. It would be beneficial if those were clearly marked on the plans from the spaces into the sidewalk and the entrance of the building.
Yeah, basically the way we would basically design this, and we can add additional car stops if that's requested, but this area of sidewalk would be flush with the pavement. So
Okay.
all these ramps, there would be no curb raised there. And then you have ramps here and here going to full height curb. So that would all be flush, and then there would be a ramp there and then into the building that way.
Okay. Great.
Is there any landscape design plan are you adding trees, other vegetation, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so we did submit a landscape plan. So we're adding some street trees to the center island here, some trees out at the entrance, and then plantings around. This doesn't show like more ornamental plantings directly against the building, but there would be additional plantings against the building. This is really just to facilitate for the parking lot. And then the comprehensive plan has a lot of plantings adjacent to this property line as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some existing vegetation in this area that would remain or be maintained and replaced if necessary, but we did submit this landscaping plan as well.
Are you cutting down any trees? I'm trying to think if there's trees in that existing roundabout in front of it.
Yeah, the only trees are being cut down is up in the roundabout in the front entry of the existing.
Yeah.
There's some trees kind of in this area here. But that's really it. And they're being replaced by trees in this island here.
Yeah, and those are all old pines, low pines. They kind of make a mess on the site.
Yeah.
There's a requirement in the bylaw that 10% of the interior parking area has to be designated to impervious landscaping. Was there a calculation provided? I couldn't locate it on the plans.
There typically is, we definitely did it. I can get you that, or we can add that to the plans.
Okay, great. And then we have a minimum caliper size for trees of 3 inches. There's some trees that are a little smaller than that. And then the shrubs have to be noted as 18 inches in height.
Okay.
I think it'd also be beneficial if we could formalize a phasing plan so we can better understand the flow of traffic.
Yeah, that will have to be worked on. So that
Okay.
involves the people behind us too.
Okay,
So that isn't easy just to turn around, and it's going to take some time
Yeah.
to make sure we understand all the elements.
Even,
And-
I mean, even rough estimates, and I mean, I know
Yeah.
you said you
Yeah.
have in mind an existing, like,
Correct.
step 1, step 2, step 3, like, definitely laying that out for us, especially when the demolition
Right.
phase of that would occur. I know people are interested in that.
We can
Would
give
that
you
be
that.
more appropriate as a condition for our building permit that will provide it, how it's all gonna work and all of that? And so you can't get a building permit until we provide that phasing, because that's probably when it's most likely the other projects going forward, our projects going forward, and how they're gonna work together. We see some of that kind of construction management, well, I put it, as you get closer and the building inspector, kind of confirms that all of it's gonna work as part of that.
So that will be an integrated approach?
Yes, there will be. And included in that is also the easement agreement between us two will end up being a recorded document as well.
Okay. Yeah, again, there's some nervous people about that. And I think they're nervous to a large degree because they don't have information. And frankly, at this point, they can't expect that you would until it's firmed up a bit.
Right. 100% agree. And we have to do the same with everyone that we're involved with as well. It's just everyone's been in a waiting pattern for permits to be approved on the lower site on the residential. So I do understand they just received their Army Corps permit. So that was the holdup.
Okay.
The 129 parking spaces that are proposed for this area on the screen here, are those going to be established prior to the construction of the residential property? And are they going to be solely for the use of the commercial property? Or will they be used with, go ahead.
You are correct. They will be established prior to the construction of the rear property. And we'll give you that in the brief outline of the phasing schedule. And once completed, solely for the use of the office property. That's it.
As Jeff mentioned, there's an easement agreement because there are things that kind of go back and forth between the two properties. The water supply, there's some stormwater things, the treatment system and things. So there'll be what's called a reciprocal easement agreement that gets recorded that lays out the obligations of the parties. And one of the things that will be in there is that the office can't park on the residential and the residential can't park on the office. So it gives kind of enforcement rights to both parties. And then the same things are kind of baked into the conditions with the ZBA approval. So the city would have an enforcement right, or the town would have an enforcement right.
Is it, just because I'm not clear, is it 2 contractors doing the work, or is it going to be 1 contract for both sites?
It'll be 2 separate contractors.
So is it going to be is that note about the parking going to be on the drawings for both sets? Or it would be somehow?
What note are you referring to?
That the parking is exclusively for the commercial development?
Yes. Go ahead, Matt.
I said that easement agreement is a separate agreement between the parties from the construction. So it's really kind of the post-construction condition. So that both parties have control of their parking and no one can use it. But yeah, and the contracts will be separated for the construction. So there'll be the contractor that builds one side of the project, the comprehensive permit project versus the other. They'll be separate.
Are you going to have a client's project manager that oversees both contractors?
There will be a project manager that oversees ours, and then they have a project manager that oversees theirs. They will report probably to the two principals, one myself and the other contact at Wood Partners.
So
We have our own construction company, so our own construction company will be doing the work up there
right.
in that space for us.
Is the Bolton Country Manor not a part of that easement for the parking?
The Bolton Country Manor easement is the access right away in the roadway. And I believe that will be somewhat separate with Wood Partners directly.
So Jeff, you
That-
showed
and
me,
that- That's existing in place, that easement they already have. Correct. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, again, the train of responsibility up through the two organizations is pretty clear, but I still wonder who ultimately on a day-to-day basis is going to assure that there is coordination and resolution of issues between the two contractors during construction.
It would be the two existing project managers from each of the construction companies that would be there, and if there's a resolution that needs to be resolved, then it goes up to myself and will go to the representative at Wood Partners.
Okay,
Any
so
reg-
on an expeditious basis, the two of you get your heads together and resolve outstanding issues if it ever
Correct.
gets that high.
Correct.
I'm just noting when two people are in charge, nobody's in charge kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern.
If it was noted on the drawings or in the easement, if the easement was noted on the drawings where it makes clear what the ground rules are, it's kind of easy to know that somebody's going outside their boundaries.
Well,
Is it-
that was one of the
the point of-
conditions for the ZBA approving the limited parking. So I think that gives enforcement, at least on this, like, what we're really talking about is the office park property. That's what this board has purview over. So the Wood Partners, like, that's a 40B, like, the planning board doesn't have any purview over that, for the most part, over that project. So that's why everything we're kind of limiting our discussion to here is really about the office park piece of it.
I mean,
Right.
in practicality, these are two properties next to each other, two different projects. They're not, it's not like this is one combined office park that has it's two adjacent properties that we just have to have access agreements, and there's agreements between the two, but it's really two construction projects next to each other that have to integrate some pieces rather than, rolling up to some master development.
Sure,
But
true.
the post-construction conditions are part of that easement, and there would be, weekly consultation at a minimum between the project managers, during construction, because there's, traffic concerns while they're building the entrance and things like that. They would have to be coordinated. I understand your concerns.
My concern's kind of the interim condition, right? If you establish the 129 parking spaces, it's exclusively for the commercial development, that's all good. If contractors start using it, Bolton County Manor, it starts being used as an overflow, that would be my concern if we take too much parking away.
Right.
in time.
Mike, we do have property management that's on site, on staff daily at that building. So they're there every single day from 7 to 5 p.m. So any sort of eyes and ears or direct eyes and ears from our people, our employees that are on site, that would restrict that from happening.
Jeff, the lay down areas during construction going to be specifically on the land that you and the other project own?
Yeah, so you asked, there wouldn't be any construction activity going on in Bolton Manor or anything like that. It's not our property.
Okay, but between the 40B and the revised office park, there is going to be sharing of laydown space there?
I mean, there would be some overlap just for the demolition of, our building is on their property, so while that's being demolished, but I mean, I would anticipate once that demolition is done, kind of the office building and the rehab of that stays on their lot, and Wood Partners and their work really is contained on their area.
I mean, for the most part, our goal is to get our project done and completed even before they start. They have certain infrastructure things that have to be done prior, but when going vertical, we should be done by the time they're thinking about even starting going vertical.
Okay.
Typically,
Okay,
typically as part of a special permit process, we dictate the construction hours. Has that been discussed? Like,
It has
we-
not, it has not been. discussed
Usually,
on our
in the
project.
in the past, in special permits, we've had like construction hours listed. I don't know if that's something that we would continue to do or not. But
okay, I definitely think we would want to do that in this case.
Yeah.
Um,
But even on top of that, like I'm thinking like during rush hour, we can try to, vehicles coming in, construction vehicles pulling in, pulling out. I don't know if you could try to avoid that, but yeah, definitely construction hours is something typically we list. Like, what were you thinking? 7 a.m.
Are the typical hours 7 a.m. to 5 or something like that? 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And typically we did no Sundays, I think, Mike.
no
maybe.
weekends.
Right.
Yeah. or something like that.
Saturdays, usually Saturdays were from 7 a.m. to usually 5 p.m. Those might adjust, the hours might adjust daylight savings, and hopefully we're getting rid of that.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that we gain, and usually when we're on site, most often everyone's leaving 3:30, 4 o'clock by then anyways. But usually that gives us enough a window Monday through Saturday. No Sunday.
And again, that's a concern that's been expressed by the people in Bolton Manor.
Yeah, it would be nice to get a day break at least.
Okay, so I didn't see if we had anyone from the public who had comments about this, so I'll open that up now if anyone has anything. No, doesn't look like we have anyone there. Okay, I think the the next steps is to continue this to the next meeting, get a little more clarity, get some things updated on the documents. I think the biggest thing we want to understand is reviewing the stormwater report. So Pam, maybe you can have the action to talk to Don and see if this is something we need to send out for our own peer review to take a look at.
Sure.
Oh, and then the other thing was there was kind of a question from the start as to whether we were going to amend and restate the original 1986 special permit or just issue a new special permit altogether for the project. So I don't know if that's town council we need to get for guidance on that, or if
I
again,
believe
if
I
Don-
spoke to the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
No, go
spoke to the town administrator about that, and he said he conferred to town council and it was an amendment.
an amendment. Okay.
Yes.
Right. And then I believe you guys I saw a list of the amendments you wanted changed or the requirements you wanted changed. So I'll read through those again before the next meeting.
Okay.
Anyone else on the board have any questions?
Not for me.
Not me.
Well, good. Jeff, things seem good. You understand what
Yes.
we're looking for? Okay.
Yep, well, we have some follow-up notes and everything else, all, you know what, all good questions. You guys are doing well, on top of your game.
Thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere, sir.
No, we'll see you at the next meeting. Do we have that scheduled yet, or?
Yeah,
what-
so our next meeting will be September 27th. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, that should work.
Yes,
Okay, then I will make a motion to continue the special permit hearing for 580 Main Street until September 27th at 7 p.m.
I'll second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Bob Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
on the 27th.
Appreciate it, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is preliminary discussion for a special permit business on Sugar Road with Nicholas Moynihan.
Nice to meet you guys.
Hey Nick, how's it going? Why don't you we've spoken by email and over the
Yes.
phone once, so why don't you give an overview to the board about sort of what you're looking to do, and we can kind of talk through it. So
Yeah, so good evening, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Let me just say this is kind of just an informal preliminary discussion about some questions that Mr. Moynihan had about a potential business on Sugar Road.
Yeah, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
So basically, long story short, I own a dealership in Western Massachusetts. We sell Hyundai construction equipment and a couple other lines, Hyundai being the main line. And basically, we got some territory from other dealers right here. And we need to build up a new facility somewhere in Eastern Massachusetts. And this property we have under agreement right now and seems to be the most viable option for us for visibility, ease of trucks in and out. And, this is kind of the very brief idea of what we're looking to do here. And we kind of want to get everyone's opinions on it before we waste a bunch of time and money to find out it's something that the town doesn't want.
Sorry, Mr. Antil, we're getting a little bit of feedback on your phone. Maybe you could mute there.
Okay. I don't know how that. Thank you.
Yeah. And so just for the board, this is the property Colonial Candles on Sugar Road, the old Hebert Candy Mansion property.
Yes.
So Nick, you would be looking to demo that existing building there and put up a new structure, correct?
Correct. Yes. So it's very. We're trying to, basically, if you can zoom in on the, the building a little bit, it's I know you guys have a new development that's on the opposite side of Sugar Road, and basically our thought is, it's for, we basically own all the way to the exit ramp. And I was just down there again the other day. So there's very, our traffic impact on the neighborhood is minimal. You might be talking 30 cars a day in total, because most of our work is done on site at customers' locations. So basically this is just designed for, work on new and used machines inside the building, but basically so we can put the machines on the side of the highway so they're visible. That's basically my big draw to this property, is the visibility for every contractor, construction company that drives up and down 495. You can see it. So that's kind of why we purchased the property. And
So what exactly is the business? So
the company's called Quality Fleet Service. You can Google us, and we sell and service construction equipment. So like Caterpillar, everybody knows, John Deere, we are Hyundai.
Excavators, front loaders, that sort of
loaders, off-road dump trucks, and this is the design for the property.
Okay.
And we want to basically put a big buffer between our property, and the neighbor. So they actually, instead of looking at the big ugly pine trees, some really nice, small flowering trees, and to create a nice buffer so that, not that our building, I think, is good looking, but to make sure that all the neighbors think so too.
So you would have all the vehicles would be inside the shed area, or you'd have like
No, so
like
all
an
new
outside?
construction equipment, yeah, so basically if we go back to the other plan and what we would do is basically all new construction equipment would be lined basically on the highway side behind the building, you know, away from the neighbors.
Mhm.
And then basically anything that's there for, you know, its annual maintenance or repairs, all repairs will be done inside, but just, you know, for parking, you know, on the lower portion of the lot where you see a lot of the spots, that's really down in a nook that you can't see from unless you're in the property. We'd put machines there probably for maintenance, just because I'm very much a clean and organized OCD kind of guy. So all of my businesses, we like to keep clean and neat. You can look at our website and kind of see the operation, but this is, you know, the new and improved version of our building. Basically, everything that I didn't do the first time, I'll do here. So the backstory on, we already had a deal in Marlboro, spent a ton of money on engineering, design, site planning, soil drillings, all sorts of stuff. Everybody was a go, all for it. I got, you know, tens and, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars invested into the property. And then last minute they said, oh, geez, I don't think we understood our zoning properly. We don't want to do it. I said, okay, great. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk to everyone first, so we don't end up in that same boat again.
Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of where I was getting to, is to understand the zoning of that property. Is it limited business? I think I'd have to go look at the GIS. I mean, you might even know better than me.
Yeah, it's basically my usage is allowed with special permit, according to what everyone has been telling us, town administrator. And I know, Pam, you're new, so, you know, I'm up for your definition as well.
I am new, but I did have conversation with town council about it, and he was in agreement that it would probably fall under vehicle sales.
And vehicle seals can go in, it's its own limited business, right?
No, it's a residential district, but it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, so it would have to be changed through a special permit process.
So it's a pre-existing non-conforming, like, food, basically. I mean, can you change the use that much in a pre-existing non-conforming?
You can't. This is Attorney Rob Ansel speaking. You certainly can change via special permit. The purpose of tonight is to see in general what the planning board's views on this would be. Specifically, your zoning bylaw says that you can't have the sale of new or used motor vehicles, with the exception of use authorized by special permit by the select board for the sale of used motor vehicles in residential districts, which really doesn't make much sense, because I think what the zoning bylaw was trying to say is that you the planning board, or rather the selectmen, can grant a special permit for the sale of 2 cars within a lot, so that somebody that lives in rural Bolton had the right to sell cars. They weren't looking for a business. However, we're not selling cars, we're selling industrial equipment. We would need a special permit. You can do a conversion from one use to the next, subject to a special permit. So our idea tonight is to say that, if, of course, the planning board has nothing to do with potential opposition from neighbors and other concerns, certainly that there are some Conservation Commission issues that we would need to deal with, but we wanted to get a general idea of what you would think of Nick's business. The underlying zoning is a little bit strange. It's not a very clear, and what we wanted to do was set up a meeting with the planning board and hopefully some other boards to get going, and with the change of the town planner, this is what we were directed to do, is to appear before the planning board for an informal meeting. So that's why we're here. You're on mute, Eric.
Yeah, I was just looking at the zoning map while you were talking, and there is limited business, a limited business zone in that area. Is that building beyond the
We
limited
are in
business
the
zone?
limited, I think we are in the limited business zone, but even in the limited business zone, if you look in your schedule of permitted uses, it says that used car sales are not allowed. However, sales, limited business circuit allows for retail sales wholly or partially outside of the building pursuant to a special permit. However, the bylaw says that used cars are not allowed. We're not selling used cars, although we would like the right to be able to sell used equipment down the road. So ideally, we would either like to get a legal opinion or a general discussion.
What does down the road mean?
If we,
you mean in
take-
time,
in the
like
future,
this? Oh, in future.
Yeah,
I thought you meant like at another property.
No. Basically, out of every,
Yeah,
I don't know,
gotcha.
let's say 50 deals we do, sometimes we take a piece of machinery in, and out of those pieces we take in, about one of them we'll keep if it's really nice, but usually they go straight to the wholesaler. They never touch our property. It's just not how it's not our scope.
So Nick, we did talk a little bit on the phone. I mean, I think this is a really tough spot for what you're trying to do here, for a couple of reasons. One is just that's a very narrow road right there. It's a bad intersection anyway. And from an optics point of view, you would be knocking down the Candy Mansion and replacing it with a warehouse. So I imagine the neighbors aren't going to be too thrilled about something like that.
Right. So I guess
that's
that's kind of why I'm here. Like, do you
Yeah.
guys make the call, or do they make the call?
Well, I mean, the board makes the call. We do take, we take input from the residents and especially the abutting neighbors. And we take that pretty seriously.
I don't disagree. I'm just
Yeah.
curious if it goes to a whole town vote kind of thing.
No, it doesn't. The special permit is done by the board. But the point of citing a business there is something that is going to bring benefit to the residents, basically, not just to Sugar Road, but Bolton in general. And it's kind of tough to make the argument that business is bringing a lot of benefit to the town.
Yeah, so the business I think is generally good, but that location is not great. Like if it was, we do have like an industrial zone, like I don't know if you know the what is it? The old Cobham building.
Cobham.
Yeah, is it 57 Main Street? I forget the number. 50. I think it's 57 Main
It's
Street.
on the Stowe line.
Yeah, that would probably be, like that. This business would be probably really good there. I know you're looking for the visibility of the highway.
Yeah, well, that's kind of that's the reason that brought me here,
Yeah.
and just the ease of off and on the ramp, and the road maybe is. Every time I'm down there, the road literally has a car on it, and basically, the only property that's there is mine. Technically on the right hand side. And we have just the trucks that park there for the day. They come in once in the morning and leave once at night. So
yeah,
for an impact.
I'm definitely open to hearing more, but I'm just my first thought was, is it even a go, like zoning wise? It's
yeah, that's kind of why I'm here, because it's so vague that it's impossible for me to decipher.
Yeah, I think maybe you've talked with town council or something, but maybe
I haven't had a chance. No, so I think Pam Pam, you said you did talk to town council?
I
And-
did speak to town council on Monday and we had a discussion about the land use effects, and he felt it most closely fit into the vehicle sales category from a land use perspective, noting that maybe heavy equipment and vehicles might not line up exactly with the definition, but the land use is most closely related to that category.
Which is allowed by special permit, you're saying?
It is not allowed.
Not
Oh, it is
allowed.
not allowed. Okay.
No.
Okay, so then this is,
So-
so basically we have some definitive answer at least now. Because we've talked to 5 different people and everybody had a different answer. So that's kind of the hope of this meeting. Either it's a go or a no-go. And so it sounds like from what you're saying, it's a hard no.
Yes, that was our discussion on Monday with council.
Okay,
Ultimately, ultimately the official determination has to come from the building inspector, who's the zoning enforcement officer. But council felt it fit most clearly into that definition.
and the zoning enforcement officer, well, he's the one I believe I spoke to who said it's okay.
Be careful.
So this is why I'm having the meeting, because I'd like
Yeah.
to get everyone in the same place at once so we can all get a consensus
Yeah.
as to what we're thinking here.
I
So I
mean,
just need to know if we're bailing on the property or not, that's all.
Well, Nicholas, I think you have 2 challenges. First of all, as you pointed out, getting definitive decision about the applicability of what you're proposing to the zoning. But secondly, to the people who live on Sugar Road, either directly across, who have lived with, an ersatz colonial building for all these years, but people further up who pass by and will react to a change in character of that particular area. I think that's going to be a pretty significant challenge. And as Mike said, we do, we work for the townspeople and we listen to them. We don't listen to them if they're wrong, or they have no basis, but we do listen.
they're wrong?
No,
Sometimes?
if they're wrong.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just joking. Have you looked at that? Did you say you looked at that Cobham building? I mean, that's it's.
No, when we talked to I don't even know if it's for sale, but there was another place in Bolton that someone suggested, but that was a hard no, because this one kind of fit because of the village overlay zoning area.
Mhm.
It kind of gave us a little hope here, and just the impact on, going through town with a 100,000-pound excavator, sometimes that, on
Yeah,
Main
that's
Street
true.
kind of makes it a pain. So that's why this one, it's literally, I basically pull onto my own property from the highway. So I couldn't get a better opportunity than that. That's kind of why we are here.
Yeah, I think when Eric was talking about the other buildings, they were again on the Stowe line, so you wouldn't be going through Bolton Center in that direction. You'd
Okay.
be heading towards Stowe, which is a much less traffic route.
Well, just a minute.
Well,
With all due respect.
but there actually is I think there's an existing business down that way. Right as you come into Stowe.
Yeah, it's right on the Stowe side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seems like a similar business where they
heavy
store heavy
equipment.
equipment. So I mean, they get up and down the road somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's
I think-
property for sale there currently?
I mean,
Yeah.
the Cobham building's been empty for 10 years. I have some contacts, I think. I mean, you should talk to them. I don't know if you have or have not, but
No, I have not.
yeah. I mean, it's 117 has a lot of visibility. I mean, there's a lot of cars going up and down 117.
Okay.
And there's been potential marijuana facilities and different facilities. So I would think actually the residents behind it would be kind of happy with this use versus other uses. I don't know. It's like 57 Main Street. I think you should look into it. I don't know. being a salesman here, I guess, but
Yeah, I mean, if you have context, by all means, it's not gonna, anybody
Yeah.
who can help is great.
yeah,
I'm gonna try to type it in now. What are you saying? 57 Main Street?
I think that's
57
the
Main
number.
Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And that's
It'll
in
show up as future. If you look on Google Maps.
Oh, no, well, it's not, it's across the street from Future.
No, it's across the street, Mike.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so maybe I'm giving the wrong number. Sorry.
Anyway, there's two industrial buildings right there across the street from each other.
Yeah, one's
Yeah.
Future Electronics. That's
Yeah.
on the north side.
Yeah,
And the
Yeah.
one we're talking about is on the south side.
Yes.
yeah. But there might even be space with Future Electronics where you could go do it on that side too. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's an industrial zone on that side of town.
And is that area that we're talking about zoned for my use?
It
Or
would
we-
be industrial, so I would think that it would fit, but I don't know. Again, I guess
I don't
we'll
know
have
off
to
the top of
look.
my head, but yeah,
Yeah.
we have to look into it. But it's certainly better than
Yeah.
on Sugar Road.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'll call my agent and we'll cut the cord on this one.
Okay, well, sorry about that, Nick.
No, hey, this
I mean,
is
we
what
don't.
I didn't
you know,
waste $50,000 to find it out, so I'm happy
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll look into that other site there, and I appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. If you have other questions, Nick, you can reach out to me or Pam.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for your time.
Thank
And
you.
nice to
Have a
meet
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Too.
Bye-bye.
It's tough shoes to step into the Candy Mansion.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Next item of business is release of driveway sureties.
Can you unshare?
Oh, there we go.
Great.
Okay, so we have two additional driveway sureties. Pam, you checked with Mike Savageau or whoever that these are all set, right? I think Kristen gave
Yes.
you. Yeah, okay. So I will make a motion to release the driveway surety for 75 Bear Hill Road.
Second,
Second. Sorry, Bob.
third,
Just gonna do a quick roll call, Pam.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Bob Romer,
aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Okay,
and
and
motion passes.
I will make a motion to approve the release of the driveway surety for 88 Laurel Road.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Bob Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Okay, we had approval of minutes on here from July 26th and August 16th. Do we have copies of those, Pam?
I don't. I was told that the board members would be
Oh,
filling in
you
and
know what?
taking the
I think-
minutes.
I think Jim might have those, and he's not here today. So
Okay.
let's table that one for now and try
Yep.
to get those minutes from him. Last item of business, Pam, do you want to talk a little bit about the A&R for the backland lot you received, and just so the board kind of maybe has a better idea than we do on it?
Yeah, so an applicant came in to discuss creation of a backland lot through special permit, and he actually the proposal had two backland lots with one conforming typical lot in the residential district. And quite honestly, it was a little difficult to interpret. So I had conversation with him that I thought you were only allowed to create one backland lot, and he had sent me a few applications that were previously approved, but probably I think one was 2015 and one was from 2012, where there were special permits granted for two backland lots. So I just wanted to talk to the board and see if anyone
Yeah, you can do two back, you can do two most together. You can do two
enough.
together with 50-foot frontages, you can do two together, but then you can't do more than that together. Then you have to have
Okay.
like a 200, I believe that's the bylaw.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's what I remember. At most, you can have two contiguous backland lots.
Pam, I told you Eric would know.
Okay, so we do have a new application for a special permit for the creation of 2 backland lots with 1 conforming lot, and we can move forward and get that scheduled.
Oh, and this one's even more confusing, right? Because part
Yeah.
of it lies in Harvard. So it's like they want to have every complicated thing possible.
Can I ask a quick question? What is a conforming lot?
Well, just your typical lot with the 2-acre minimum lot size with the 200 feet of frontage.
Okay.
80,000 square feet, I should say.
Yeah, so whenever we talk about an A&R, approval not required, as long as the lot meets those dimensionality and basically as long as it conforms, what Pam said, is that it has a certain amount of frontage and a certain amount of acreage, then we say, yep, you're allowed to turn this into a lot and you can then apply to go build on it.
Got it.
And backland lot, what we usually see is people subdivide up a parcel into several A&R lots and then maybe one backland lot. And I think the confusion, Pam, right, was just how the bylaw is worded. I'm trying to look it up right now. Would it said like not more than one contiguous or something?
Not more than one other backland lot, I think was the specific wording. So it implies that it allows for 2, basically.
I think we just, like a few years ago, we did one on Harvard Road like that. If you remember going kind of up the hill.
But each one has to have 50 feet?
Yeah.
And
what's the overall, I mean, what's the overall land look like? Not that, I know it's the whole A&R thing, and if it meets it, you know, good, but.
well, no, this is a
I just
special
wanna-
permit.
No,
Like
I understand, yeah, that's true. But I'm just wondering, I don't want to get into a Meadow Road situation. It'd be interesting to know what the overall. Like, this is how Meadow Road started. Oh, just 2 lots, another 2.
Well, that was a little bit different. Was they A&R'd off? Like
Right.
we had no choice on those.
No, well, they did a couple and then they did a couple more.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
they came and they said, I want to do an
Yeah.
A&R for this lot.
That's what I'm
And-
saying, A&R, approval not required, but
Yeah.
we are
But
the
we have
planning.
much more control in this case.
Yeah, right. It is a special permit, so that's good. I just wonder with the rest of the land, so you said there's still a bunch of land. Is it just 200 feet of frontage or is there a bunch of, you know, is it a big lot still? Like,
We really probably shouldn't
yeah, sure.
discuss
Yeah,
too much of it,
That's a
but
good point.
the 2 backland lots were 4.5 acres, and then the third lot was quite a bit. It was probably even larger than that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the minimum 80,000, but I can't recall specifically what it was.
So why don't we look at what they're actually proposing and what the topography of the area looks like? And then, you know, have a good discussion about that in the context of some relatively painful past experience over which we had very little control.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first point is we need, so the point of this meeting was to say that, yes, they can do this. So Pam, you can go back to the applicant and say, yeah, they can move forward with that. And then it would come before the board to look it over.
But it would be nice at the same time to have more than just a survey, to have the topography of the area so we can start understanding a little bit more of what the proposed approach would be.
Yeah. I mean, once we have the address and all that, we can look at the lots. But Pam's right. I don't think we didn't really want to discuss specifics of this applicant, just whether or not the board felt it was allowed. And I think Eric answered the question. So
we have no specifics.
Okay. I think that was everything on the agenda. Did anyone have any other
Yeah.
things they want to bring up?
Yeah, and I mentioned it to you, Mike and Pam. So much to my surprise, on a Sunday evening, I got an email from EEO at the state saying that they had awarded us the grant that I had applied for through Don to get Randall Arent down to review all of our bylaws and regulations and also conduct a similar program to the one that he conducted in Harvard with open space residential development, so that we can understand a bit more about that from the guy who kind of invented it.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
So we'll stay tuned. We cannot announce that until the state has formally announced it.
But he just announced it.
No, no, there was a proviso at the end of the email.
Okay.
I'll send the email around to you folks.
So what type of suggestions would he like?
I have
just
no
as
idea.
Yeah.
He's basically looking at phosphorus on steroids. But he has a very integrated approach in that he's not looking at different ways of doing one owner residences, single family residences. He's looking at putting different types of housing on land in order to accommodate need for housing, but at the same time preserve the character and the open space. So it's kind of a bigger deal, and he's done it in a number of places.
I mean, yeah, I'm all for that. I would love if he could even look at our old cottage overlay that we brought before town and
And
got
he
shut
will.
down.
He's definitely interested in that kind of thing, Eric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Is this meeting geared at like just the planning board members, or is this like
No.
a public community
Public.
meeting? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
he'll and that's what I went to the one he did 3 years ago at least in Harvard, and he did a review of the planning board regulations and the town bylaws, and then he brought in and invited developers, engineers, townspeople, and the boards, and we had a very large charrette session in which he walked through the process, took a typical example. One in the case in Harvard that he had been the landscape architect for, and discussed how a lot more housing could be put on it, but at the same time save an awful lot of open space and minimize the impact on the environment and the character of the town. It's a tricky business, and he admits it. Harvard has learned. It took him 3 years to make it through, but a lot of towns have come up with a good solution that meets the needs of the developers. The reaction from developers is no more special permits. We want a by right bylaw, but you can be just as specific as you want so that we know what the rules of the game are and we can go ahead. So that's what he had to mediate, and I think it worked out reasonably well, although it was a long and moderately torturous path, but he's been down it a couple of times now, so he knows what's coming.
Bob, would this be an opportunity to have him in person? We could have, I guess, an in-person workshop or meeting.
Oh yeah,
as opposed to virtual.
Oh no, I'd love to. Oh, you can't. I don't think you could do this virtually.
Okay.
Basically the way it was done in Harvard is he had a conversation about the philosophy with a huge number of people. I believe there were 100 people, if not more, in the cafeteria at the school. And then he had charrette tables, and laid out huge sheets, plot plans, and gave everybody little icons of different types of housing, and had topos and wetlands and what have you on his map. And then he let us all rip, and he went through and critiqued what each charrette table had come up with, which was, I think, a very nice real-time charrette approach for landscape architecture. And I came away learning a lot, and I know that the planning board in Harvard came away learning a lot, as did the town administrator and developers, everybody else. It was very well done, and that's the reason I went after him to do it again.
You don't mind me asking, what was the grant? How much was it for?
7,000.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Oh, yeah, and I was looking for, it's a matching grant. And much to my delight and surprise, Don said, I'll match it.
Wow.
So the town's gonna match, and it's a small, it's like $1,000 or something from the town.
Thanks for all your work on that, Bo.
Yeah. Agreed.
So we'll, as soon as anything becomes more official and we start thinking about timing, I'll get back to you, because timing is real critical to get as many people and give it as much visibility as possible.
Yeah, I mean, do you think fall or spring, winter?
Yeah, I think fall. He sent me an email a couple of days ago and said that he's going to be traveling in November, as will I. And I'm not sure October works at this point. We have a pretty full October. So again, it's wide open. I'll let you know how things go.
Okay. Keep us in the loop. Thank you. Anyone else have things they want to talk about? Pam, how's everything going so far?
Okay. Sorry, I got the zoning district wrong for that Sugar Road parcel. I did know it. I don't know, whatever. I did know it was limited.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Well,
I would like to talk to you all about, I just did a pretty brief review of 580 Main Street for this meeting, just because of the time limitations. So typically I just want to make sure I know I would do a more formalized menu addressed to the board, and I would CC applicants and developers on that, probably like the Friday before the meeting. So that's kind of the path I would plan on using in the future. So does that seem reasonable and acceptable to the board to proceed that way?
Downright delightful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then packages, usually if there's only one item, links are good with the draft memos and attached to an email. Is that typically what you like to see for materials prior to the meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
a link with everything in one place, I think is
okay. And I'll
everyone
assume
likes.
everything's going to be posted on the web and we won't need a Google Drive or anything like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And then meeting minutes, typically, how has that worked in the past?
Not well.
The planner's done them in the past.
Okay. That's what all 5 boards I'm staffing say to me, so I kind of
Well, and you have the assistant, right? And is that part of
she's
her?
16 hours a week, but half with Concom, half with me. So
Okay. I mean, if she can spend an hour or two doing meeting minutes, like maybe that takes it off your plate.
Okay.
You can watch the videos at like 1x or 2x speed. Oh, and so I don't know if we've actually set our meeting schedule for the fall. I kind of don't think we have done that yet. So Pam, typically we meet second and fourth Wednesday of every month. I know you said you have a conflict on October 11th.
Yes, I do.
So we can either move the 11th to the 18th, or we can just cancel the 11th and do it on the 25th. You know,
I would say just cancel it. If we need another meeting for whatever reason, just do the 18th or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. We usually kind of have a feeling like a month or two in advance about what's sort of coming down the road. If something's going to get submitted that we need to open hearing on or something. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know if you've heard anything, Pam, that's kind of pressing on that. So I think to that point, maybe right now we'll just plan to not meet on the 11th. And if we need to, we can meet the 18th. But then keep October 25th.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then looking at November, so Thanksgiving is one, so that, yeah, so Thanksgiving would be the 23rd, so 22nd would have been, am I reading this right? Yeah. The 8th and the 22nd would have been our meetings that month. So we'll plan on just the 8th, nothing on the 22nd. I can't imagine we'd need to meet the 29th, but again, we do try to be flexible on the board if people need stuff, but for now we'll just say we'll meet the 8th of November. And then December, it looks like
Same story.
yeah, the 13th and the 27th, obviously not meeting on the 27th, so we'll plan on the 13th. Or we could even do a 6th and the 20th. I don't know if people want to go as late as the 20th.
Well, yeah, if we're not meeting the second half of November, the 6th and 20th is probably fine
Yeah.
by me.
Does
at
that
least.
yeah, does that work for people?
That works. Did you say November 8th was the meeting in November?
November 8th.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, 6th and 20th, then if there's nothing on the agenda for the 20th, you could just cancel it. But
Yeah. Does that work for you, Pam?
Yes.
Okay.
And then do you have working meetings? Or set annual goals for bylaw changes or anything like that in preparation for
So we
town
usually
meeting?
Yeah, we usually try to do those during our meetings. Everything's been a little bit derailed, just because of the change in planners, but also because of the master plan process that was going on, is we didn't want to try to introduce any major zoning changes until the master plan was finished. So I don't know. There's definitely little things we could probably do for bylaw changes, but nothing major planned right now, I don't think.
I saw some notes.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere buried in the town planner files has been like kind of a running list of potential bylaws. And there's like about like
I'm
20
sorry.
things on there.
Okay.
They're all kind of minor things.
Yeah, and like typically, because typically we have our public hearing for bylaws like end of February. So around now, we start to pull up that list and see if there's anything we want to work towards. So if you could find that list and we can go through it.
I found a list. I'm not certain how current it is, but I'll distribute it and maybe we can have it as an agenda item for the next meeting and figure out what's relevant and what's not. And I also saw some notes on subdivision regulation
That
revisions.
was part of it, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, making some changes to those.
And there were even things that came up such as driveway permit approval, the information that needed to be provided, little things like that have tripped us up recently.
Okay. Well, I'll try and find that and see how current I have it. I'll just I didn't notice a date on it, so I'll look at the file information and see when the last date it was amended was and distribute it to the board and we can have it as an agenda item.
Did Todd leave an exit document?
He did, but that wasn't something that was referenced, so.
Valerie, who left before him, probably had a very comprehensive one.
Yeah, I have one from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and even hers.
And we really haven't made a lot of bylaw changes in the past couple years. So if we had proposed changes, like they're up to date in the sense that we haven't done them.
Okay. And even the rules and regs, I don't know that we need 9 copies of everything anymore. So changing some simple things like that would be nice.
That's an environmental concern. We're trying to keep trees.
Yeah.
It asks for it on like a CD-ROM, I think. There's some wild stuff in there.
Is there any board members that like hard copies of the applications, or is everyone fine with electronic copies?
No,
okay.
no, absolutely.
Right. Sorry, I'm just trying to get up to speed on what the expectations are. Okay. I did have a few that like the big sets of plans in my previous job, so that's why I asked.
No, that is the one nice thing about Zoom is being able to kind of just pull that stuff up on your computer screen and zoom in and do all that. So speaking of which, there's a couple decisions that we made before you started that we need to sign. So there's the United Cultivation one, and then was there one other?
Yeah,
thing?
160
just-
Stillwater, I believe, the accessory dwelling unit.
The ADU. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're both ready. I'm just finalizing some things on the ADU, but it shouldn't take me more than maybe 20 minutes in the morning tomorrow. And then I'll put them, I guess there's a space I'll send out an email and there's a space you can drop by when you outside town hall that you can sign.
Yep. That
Okay.
little gray box.
Okay.
We usually just stick the plans in there and people can come by and sign them as needed.
Okay. So I'll send an email out when they're both ready and in the box, but it should be sometime tomorrow.
Okay. And
there'll be the 2 decisions.
Yeah, and it's definitely different people who have to sign each one.
Yeah, I'll include that in the email.
Okay.
Who can sign which one.
Okay.
And there's 3 copies of each decision to file with the clerk.
Yep.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Nice meeting you, Pam.
You too, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
You don't do a roll call for that, do you do a roll call for that?
We do, and I don't know why.
Okay.
Let's stop it now.
Yeah, let's stop it now. Everyone, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks,
Right.
Pam.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Night.
Nice to meet you.
You too, thanks.